Let's get a little bit more into the theory side of project management, or PM, and talk about what is a project. The basic unit of a project is a task. And this is like if you ever think about getting things done or putting things on a to-do list. Tasks are the things that go on your to-do list, generally not projects. And when you put a project on your to-do list, you've usually got a problem. That means that you're putting on something that could take 5 to 50 hours. Something that's really a big chunk of time should not be a single point on a to-do list. To-do list items are generally 5 minutes to a half an hour, maybe an hour max. But they're just those individual tasks. Projects is when you get to something that's beyond that. And there's been different studies on how long you should continuously work on one thing before getting up and taking a break. But it's generally considered anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes is that basic unit. So a project is when you're doing something that's going to require more than this, or when it's something that's going to carry over multiple blocks of time. So sometimes each of these blocks of time may only be 5 minutes, but you've got to keep track of something. And each time, there's a gap of a day or a gap of a week or a gap of a month, you forget what was in your head before. And so a big piece of the value of this OnePagerr is that you just have somewhere where you can keep all that basic information, and you always know that it's going to be in the same place, in the same format. So let's get a bit more deep into what a project actually is. It's an activity that has tasks in it. Each of these tasks has a goal, which comes out as a deliverable, and has a timeline associated with it, or a deadline. It also has a cost and an owner. So a person responsible for it, a cost in terms of time, money, energy, and big picture. A project is the opposite of operations. Okay, so project is something that's a one-time thing. You're creating something new. Whereas operations is something that's part of a routine that your business or your company or you as an individual are doing all the time. It's something that's generally permanent, or at least semi-permanent. This is sort of business as usual. So projects, the key is about this is something that's new, that's a one-time thing. And then operations is where you're just sort of implementing it. So a project could be building a new system that would then get implemented and become part of your routine. So the project of building the system would be a project. That activity of building the system itself, building the routines, or sort of a new operational procedure, that could be a project. But once it's implemented and you're running it and you're doing basically the same thing each day, week, month, quarter, year, then it becomes part of operations. And so that's the key difference. And project management, a lot of it is about dealing with all the uncertainty that comes with working on something new that you're not already familiar with. So that's the basics of what a project is. One thing that's interesting specifically about deliverables, and this is something that's more theoretical, is you're not going to have to worry about as much, but it has to do with what exactly is this deliverable, getting specific on it. And this is, a classic piece of goal setting that you'll hear all the time, which is get specific on what you really want, what your goal really is. And try to turn that into something that's physical, that can, literally be delivered to somebody or given to somebody, and get out of the land of abstraction. So try to be as concrete as possible. There's another question though, which is, how do we measure this? And who measures it? Usually, there's not a purely objective way of measuring something. Deciding how to measure something itself is subjective. So deciding, you could have a bunch of different objective measurements, but it's a subjective decision to say which of those measurements matters and which one doesn't, and maybe how much do each of them matter. And then the next question is who gets to judge, or what instrument, what tool do you use to measure that thing? Because different tools might give a different measurement. So this kind of stuff is generally, you're going to be the judge, and you don't have to worry too much about this because you pretty much know how you're going to judge something. But it still can help to at least think a little bit about, well, how am I going to measure success? How can I get a little bit more concrete about that and get closer and closer to something like a KPI, key performance indicator, or something that's as closely as possible linked to some sort of success metric. Now, in your personal life, it can be tough to get here, but a simple one could be like, if you're trying to lose weight, is, a number of pounds of weight that you're going to lose. So that's getting more specific. Okay, so theoretically, that's what a project is. It's made up of tasks. Each of these tasks can be anywhere from 5 minutes to, 60 to 90 minutes. You want to break down what you're doing into these tasks. That's one of the main keys and pieces of value in creating this one pager, is you're breaking it down into individual tasks, and you're getting an idea of, okay, what am I actually gonna how am I going to implement this? What are my goals? What are my deliverables? And we'll be getting more into that in the next coming videos.